Let's talk about the sociability scale. This is the scale where we're measuring a person's social style and approach. It's one of the more obvious traits that we can identify when we first meet somebody because it's right there how they're interacting with us. But getting the assessment results can be a surprise, and I'll share a story or two to illustrate that. But first, let's look at what the scores mean. So just like in the other scales, we have the bell curve norming distribution of the information. So people who fall on the left side of the scale are going to be much more private and reserved. People who score on the right side of the scale are going to be outgoing, love to be around other people, and to socialize. Here are some additional ways to think about sociability. So the people who score on the left are going to be wanting to stick to business more and avoiding that small talk, water cooler conversation. They're not frustrated by a lack of social contact, and in fact, it can be very tiring for them to engage in conversation or interaction over a period of extended time. But it's important to note that it doesn't mean that these individuals who are more private and reserved have difficulty or are unable to conduct a perfectly normal and satisfactory exchange. It's just that their preference is to hone it in and keep it in a much more contained space and or time. The people who score on the right-hand side are very different in that they're so outgoing and conversational. They really love to be around people, to attend social events. They're very comfortable in group settings and starting conversations with total strangers. And they'll find the time to socialize. What can be helpful for the person who scores high in sociability is to remember that balance of when that sense of overwhelm is happening to someone that they may be talking to who's very different in that regard. So I have two quick stories about individuals who scored low on sociability, because that's often the one that's a surprise, either for the individual themselves and or others who may see them in a little bit different light. One situation was a VP of a bank that took the assessment and scored very low on sociability. And I was actually a little surprised at that myself because it had not been the context in which I had experienced our interactions. But when he saw the results, he's like, oh yes, this is definitely me. And he said, I understand in my role, I need to have my office door open all the time, and I need to be available and approachable for the people on my team. But at lunch, he said, I leave the building and separate myself, go to a private, quiet place where I can recharge my batteries. And I thought that was really very savvy of him to understand himself well enough to kind of get the lay of the land for what was comfortable for him in that regard. The other situation was a person who I was delivering assessment results to. He also scored low on sociability, but was very surprised and in fact feeling bad about it. And he said, but I can carry on a conversation and I enjoy talking with people in my office and I feel like I get along with them well. And I said, all of that could be absolutely true. And I'm sure it was for this individual because that was my experience in working with him as well. So I started to ask him about things that he enjoyed doing, like on his off time or the weekends, time when, he could just do whatever he wanted to do. And immediately came out of his mouth that he loved to either go on hikes or bike rides by himself up on this nearby mountain, and just relax and be alone. So that's what sociability is talking about. When we have the opportunity to make a choice about how we're going to spend our time and how we recharge our batteries, this is the place that we go. So it's not about competency or capability, it's about our social preference for how we approach interactions with others. As you can see, no matter where you score, it's perfectly fine. The trick is to understand what you need and provide that opportunity as much as you can for yourself, especially when you're in situations that are contrary to your natural approach and preference. So if you are more private and reserved and you're getting ready to head into a week-long conference where you have to man a trade booth, you're going to need to find some of those times to disconnect and recharge. Or say you're really an outgoing person and you're on a project team where everybody is so focused and they come into the meeting and they immediately start talking about the project, and then as soon as it's over, everybody scatters and there's no time to interact in any sort of personal way. That can be really uncomfortable or disheartening to an individual who's very outgoing. So perhaps you would be the one to introduce the idea to this team that they start out with some sort of opener or icebreaker, just to say something about something they enjoy doing or something that they did over the weekend. You will be amazed at tiny little changes that you can introduce that will help embrace everybody's style. Embrace your own social style, but just recognize and remember that there's an equally acceptable approach to sociability.